Hello friends, this is Miss Lissa, and I'm outside because it's beautiful out, but also because you're going to be making art outside today. And the art you're going to make is dealing with building and nature, and you're going to be building a fairy house. Now, you don't have to believe in a fairy to make a fairy house. You just could make something that's kind of small, kind of little, kind of miniature. So fairy houses have been made in Europe, mostly like around England and Ireland and Wales and Scotland. Have also been made in America, starting in Maine. Maine is a state in America that is in the way high northeast area, right on the ocean and right below Canada. And over 100 years ago, people started building fairy houses along the shore and on the islands at the ocean. But you don't have to be on the coast of Maine to build a fairy house. Wherever you live, you can build one. In fact, I go hiking at Bent Creek and there's fairy houses there. There's actually fairy houses right down the street. There's a little woods by my house where people have been making fairy houses. You can make them anywhere. But the reason why people started making them is to give the fairies, inviting them over, giving them some place to be, to let them know that we're safe, and to give them a little bit of something. We don't know how old people's belief in fairies were, but they've been in folklore. That means folk tales for hundreds and even thousands of years. In fact, there's stories of dairy farmers in Ireland leaving little pans of milk out to help the fairies not be mischievous and doing things that aren't nice. There are stories of bakers leaving out a little bit of a muffin for the fairies to keep the fairies happy, and also because fairies, you want them to be good. So, you don't have to believe in them, but we are going to make a house for them anyway. Believe it or not. So to make your fairy house, the first thing you want to do is find a good spot. Now, a good spot usually is something that has a little bit of protection. Sometimes people put them near a fence or under a shrub, and I found this really good spot here. Now, this is an old tree stump that I planted a new tree in, but you can see it's got a cozy, protected little space. It almost looks like it's a fairy house all by itself. And so that's where I'm going to put my fairy house. After you found your spot, you want to start gathering your materials. Now I have sticks and rocks, and that's old wood and pine cones and seed pods. And you might notice that there's something all about these is that they're natural. Fairy houses really should be made out of nature. You shouldn't use glue or tape. Sometimes people use a little bit of string, but you have to try not to. Use mostly nature. That's what they say the fairies like. And over here, I have clippers. Now that's only for a grown-up to use, but they're really handy for making your sticks the right size, but you could also just break them. Now, if you're just like, I have something I really think is super special like that, that is a piece of crystal glass that would maybe be okay to have one or two things that are not nature. And there's my number 2 thing. It's a thimble. So this is my thimble, if I can find it. I'll put it right there. That's my thimble. And then I could maybe use that for like a little bit of water for the fairies. I don't know. But I could also try to find some acorns for that too. So only nature. And here's the second thing. Don't kill anything. Plants are alive. Now these pine branches were alive, but they came from a tree that had fallen down in a windstorm. So I did pick them, but because it's alive, I always say thank you to my plant. So thank you, pine tree. Now I've got my materials. Only natural, try not to kill them. So now that you've got a location and materials, it's time to start to build. You can do so many different things. You can do an A-frame where you lean sticks together to look like the letter A, or a teepee. You could just do a square little cottage with pieces of bark for walls. You can do it any way you want. And when you're done, think about if it needs a path. Think about if it needs a bed or anything else. The images that you're seeing are pictures from other fairy houses that other kids made. Now these are kids up in Maine, and they did this just last month. I hope you enjoy them, and they give you some ideas about some of the different things you can do for fairy houses. At the very end, I'll put some pictures of my fairy house that I'm still working on. Well, I hope you have a great time making your fairy house. I cannot wait to see it. Please upload your stuff into Seesaw and have a good time. Bye, friends. Until I see you again, I miss you so much.